I'm a huge fan of crossovers. Whether movies, video games, or anything else, I love seeing characters from different times, franchises, and even genres allied or pitted against each other. The mobile device game, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, is just the sort of game to catch my attention. Playing around with the game, I quickly realized that accuracy wasn't its strong suit. Crossover games often mess around with characters' power levels to make the game more balanced. That's how the Green Arrow has a chance at beating Wonder Woman, or the yoga instructor beating Snake. They design these games this way so everyone can play as their favorite characters and still have a chance at winning. But that's not the case with Galaxy of Heroes. Looking over their roster, I saw that the creators didn't balance the characters, but had some be simply more powerful than others. I appreciate this more honest approach, but as I looked to see who they considered more or less powerful, my excitement dwindled. It seems to me that no real consideration for accuracy was taken. For example, Padme Amidala has a higher rating than General Kenobi does. I know Padme's a capable commander. Her strategic abilities should most certainly give her a rating boost. Yet Kenobi is also a renowned strategist. Between Padme and Obi-Wan, I can't point to anything specific to definitively say which one is a better tactician. Obi-Wan is considered one of the best generals in the Clone Wars, but Padme was able to defeat the Trade Federation and free Naboo. Yet, as far as practical skills in a fight, I don't think there's any doubt that Obi-Wan clearly outmatches Padme. And this is just one example among many. Kanan Jarrus and Qui-Gon Jinn have the same rating, and both are rated lower than Zam Wesell. The Mandalorian has a higher rating than Boba Fett, and Aurra Sing is substantially higher rated than Darth Maul. There are just so many questionable ratings that I figured I'd make this video to give my opinion on how high I think each character should be rated. This won't be a versus video, just a very basic overview. I'm not going to give an in-depth analysis into each character, as that would just take too long. Instead, I'll just assign characters a number between 1 and 10 based on a general assessment on his or her usefulness in a battle. Level 1 characters will be those who are barely better than the rank-and-file soldiers such as stormtroopers and battle droids. These standard soldiers, like the Rebels and Ewoks or Gungans, are not going to be a part of my overview because they're not heroes exactly, but as I said, the rank-and-file soldiers. Level 10 characters will, of course, be the most powerful beings in the Star Wars universe. With that in mind, I'm sure you realize that I'm covering a huge amount of ground between level 1 and level 10. I could easily make this 100 levels, but since I'm only using 10, that means each level will be a huge category by itself. So one level 1 may be vastly superior to another. What's more, the best level 1s may be able to beat some of the worst level 2s depending on their style and circumstances. But this is, as I said, just a basic overview to give my general impression of these characters. A few things to note before I get started. I won't be considering characters from the game who haven't displayed significant combative abilities. Characters like C-3PO, unfortunately, give me nothing to work with. Besides, I imagine he'd lose to a single stormtrooper as he did on Bespin, even if he was armed. I also won't be able to go over every single character available in Galaxy of Heroes due to the sheer number of them. I'll just do a few dozen here, and if it's popular, make a part 2 sometime. The other matter to note is that I won't be looking too closely at character strategic abilities. The source material rarely gives tangible specifics in that area, and all major characters are traditionally said to be at least somewhat strategically minded. Only if the source material goes out of its way to highlight their tactical abilities will I count that towards their rating. And here's the obligatory spoiler warning. I'll talk about the movies and cartoons, of course, but I assume you've seen those. What's a tad more obscure that I'll be referencing are the video games Fallen Order, the Clone Wars, the 2 Knights of the Old Republic games, and the Old Republic MMORPG, as well as the Sons of Dathomir comic series. I still expect that you're up to date on everything, but just in case, you've been warned. The metric I'll be using to rate these characters is who they're able to beat. As there have been many mediums over which these characters have been portrayed, I find this the most reliable metric. After all, if you consider abilities alone, characters will be extremely reliant on the mediums they've been presented in. For example, Tartakovsky's Mace Windu makes the live-action Mace Windu seem rather unimpressive. Certain sources are just more liberal with characters' capabilities, and I don't want to give anyone an unfair advantage simply because they were presented in a more flamboyant source than others. So then, while Luke may struggle with a handful of stormtroopers in A Return of the Jedi, I won't say that that proves him weaker than Cal Kestis, who can carve through droves of the same. Instead, I look to what type of characters they're able to beat and base my rating off of that. Thus, as Luke can contend with Darth Vader, he'll be higher rated than Cal, who can do little more than run away. I'll never say that I know everything about all these characters, so if I'm forgetting some very significant feat, please let me know about it. And if you think I've misinterpreted the feats that I do know about, feel free to let me know why. My hope is that this video does inspire debate. Does that character deserve to be in the level I placed him in? Which level 5 would win in a fight? And so on. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started. We'll begin, naturally, with level 1. I'm placing Hera Syndulla here as I'm not considering piloting skills. Galaxy of Heroes isn't a dogfighting game, so Hera, unfortunately, suffers. It's rare to see Hera fight, but when she does, she's clearly not on the same level as Sabine or Zeb. In fact, she has no real victories to boast of outside of the Ghost, and even the basic stormtroopers seem a challenge for her. I'm also putting R2-D2 and Chopper at level 1 for the same reason. True, these astromechs have survived more scrapes than Hera, but usually only by skirting around the action. They rarely have to fight anyone head-on, and they give me no real reason to believe they could survive such a fight. Even when R2 defeats the super battle droids in Revenge of the Sith, it's only because they didn't consider him a military target, and so grabbed him instead of shooting him from a distance. Moving quickly along to level 2, I'll press on with Luke Skywalker, Farm Boy. That is, Luke as he appears in A New Hope. Similarly to level 1 characters, Luke is only ever seen engaging with the rank-and-file stormtrooper. He shows himself competent against these, but that's it. He's even ambushed and knocked out by a few Tusken Raiders without putting up much of a fight. The only reason I'm putting him in level 2 instead of 1 is because he's able to confront stormtroopers more directly than either Hera or R2. There's very little to go on with Farm Boy Luke, but he did fight his way through the Death Star while Hera was captured when trying to navigate through Imperial-occupied Lothal. Different situation, sure, but I think it's safe to say Luke proved more capable during his escape than Hera did in hers. My other level 2 characters aren't as much of a stretch. These are Finn and Zeb. Both these characters can confidently engage the basic stormtrooper without much trouble. But, what is more, they can contend with low-level villains. Finn faces FN 2199, and Zeb fights Agent Kallus. How powerful these villains are isn't clear, but they are more powerful than the average stormtroopers while not being as powerful as the more serious villains in their respective series. Knowing this, we can get an idea of how powerful Finn and Zeb are considering they're nearly as good as 99 and Kallus. Finn loses to 99, needing to be saved by Han, and Zeb loses his first fight to Kallus and goes even in his other scrapes with him. I'd be inclined to say Kallus, as a high-ranking agent, is a better combatant than 99, a rank-and-file stormtrooper, and then infer that Zeb was more powerful than Finn. But Finn also beat Captain Phasma. Yes, he had help, but Phasma is a more serious opponent than 99. What's more, Finn trades blows with Kylo Ren. Sure, he loses. Sure, Kylo's severely injured, but still, contending with a Force user like Kylo Ren is no small feat. Thus, I'm confident in giving both Finn and Zeb a rating of 2. Level 3 is obtained by defeating more elite villains. Sabine Wren qualifies because she doesn't just beat stormtroopers, she also beats Mandalorians. She even beats a named villain in Gar Saxon. Saxon has to be comparable to Phasma and Kallus at least, and Sabine beats him without any help. Sabine also seems more competent than Zeb when the two are fighting Rook, as she finds a way to combat his cloaking ability rather than just flail around. I'm not going to say there's a huge power difference between Sabine and Zeb, but I think there's enough of one to point out. Maybe Zeb is one of the better level 2s, while Sabine's one of the worst level 3s. But as it stands, I'm giving Sabine a level 3. She definitely won't get anything higher from me unless she does something amazing in The Mandalorian. But in Rebels, we quickly see the upper limits of her skill as she is utterly useless against Fifth Brother, a rather mid-tier Inquisitor. As powerful as Inquisitors are, they're only really qualified to kill Padawans and low-level Knights. An experienced Force user wouldn't have much trouble with any of them. Level 3 is also where I'm putting most of the clones that we know and love, such as Fives, Echo, and Jesse. Rex may be here as well, but I think I could be convinced to make him a level 4. Clone troopers are, obviously, more elite than stormtroopers. ARC troopers are elite clone troopers, and characters like Jesse and Rex are some of the best in their squad. By that logic alone, they merit at least a level 2. They regularly have to contend with elite units such as droid commandos and droidicas, yet they survive battle after battle against them. They never beat any villains like Sabine or Finn do, but aside from General Grievous, they never met any other non-Force user who could rival them. They are often outmatched in numbers, firepower, and vehicle support, and yet always come out on top. Han Solo can also go here at level 3. First, his kill count is higher than Luke's in A New Hope, and he certainly seems more combat-focused in that film. His quick draw has also ended minor villains such as Greedo and Beckett, and he went toe-to-toe with Dryden Voss. Throughout his illustrious career as a smuggler, Han was able to outwit and outshoot just about everybody he came in contact with. Both canon and legends agree that Han is almost always a step ahead. Kanan Jarrus is going to go into level 4. He rarely wins against Inquisitors, but he can give some of their lesser ranks a run for their money. He even killed the Grand Inquisitor with some help from Ezra. By himself, he defeated Rook, which was something Zeb and Sabine struggled to do when working together. And he even briefly outfought Old Maul after losing his eyesight. When he's centered, Kanan is definitely better than a level 4, as there's a big difference in Sabine's uselessness against Fifth Brother and Kanan's defeat of the Grand Inquisitor. But unfortunately for Kanan, he's not always centered. Even after defeating the Grand Inquisitor, Kanan struggled against less powerful Inquisitors such as Fifth Brother and Seventh Sister. And I highly doubt he could contend with Old Maul normally, considering how easily Maul dispatched the Inquisitors Kanan struggled against. So level 4 it is. Even though he's not featured in Galaxy of Heroes, I'm going to quickly insert Cal Kestis into the mix. I know a lot of people who say Cal is OP, but I'm going to put him here at level 4. This is still impressive, considering he never finished his training, but I think a lot of people exaggerate his power. I think he and Kanan are very comparable, and a face-off between the two would be awesome. Probably Cal's greatest feat was defeating Trilla. As second sister, I assume Trilla to be nearly as powerful as the Grand Inquisitor. As Cal loses most of his fights against Trilla and is only just able to defeat her in the end, I'd say it's safe to say they're about even. As such, I doubt Cal would be able to beat the Grand Inquisitor. That's not to say Kanan is definitively better, but that the two are clearly in the same ballpark. I've heard it argued that since Cal beat Terran Malicos, a Jedi Master, he should be considered even more powerful. Unfortunately, simply knowing Malicos was a Jedi Master and a successful general in the Clone Wars doesn't give me all that much information. Not all Jedi Masters were combat-focused. Don't get me wrong, besting a Jedi Master while being a Padawan is incredible, but I can't say whether or not it's more impressive than beating Trilla. And, since the boss fight against Malicos was one of the easiest boss fights in the game, I'm going to say defeating him wasn't Cal's best accomplishment. Besides, Merrin helped, and based on the cutscene, it looks like Cal would have lost otherwise.
You have no right to Dathomir. No right to our magic.
Others have told me that Cal is OP because he's able to fight Vader, but these people must be thinking about Starkiller. Cal didn't fight Vader. He ran from him. True, he got a lucky blow with BD's help, but we can easily see Cal was only able to avoid being slaughtered. It's impressive that he survived, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Kanan had a similar experience against Vader, again showing how comparable these two are. My next choice for level 4 is going to be controversial. Even so, here it goes. I'm going to put both Kylo Ren and Rey here. Now, let me explain. I understand they each have considerable raw and potential power, but I'm not rating them on what they could be, but rather what they are in the films. Unfortunately, in the sequel trilogy, we don't see them face off against that many opponents. They fight the rank and file, and they fight each other, but neither of these things give us any context in the greater Star Wars universe. Kylo kills both Snoke and Han Solo, but he fights neither of them, so I can't use either of these interactions as evidence for his strength. He fights with Luke, but this only shows Kylo isn't as powerful as Luke. And since we have no clear idea of how powerful Luke is at the time of The Last Jedi, this fight doesn't help us either. Yes, Rey defeats Sidious, but it's under very specific circumstances where all the Jedi are empowering her. There are simply too many unknowns in that battle for me to say anything certain. That leaves me 3 fights from which I can draw conclusions. Kylo's fight with Finn, his fight with the Knights of Ren, and his and Rey's fight against the Praetorian Guard. I'll start with the Praetorian Guard, as I think that is the most straightforward. I'm not sure of any source which explicitly says how powerful the Guard is, but it would be very safe for me to say that they're about as good as the Imperial Guard. These are, in effect, an updated version of that Guard, so they should at least have better equipment, yet I see no reason to assume that they are better trained, as both are the elite of the elite. Kylo and Rey together defeat 8 Praetorian Guards. As such, this makes them at least a level 3, comparable to Sabine, who also defeats the elite of the elite, when taking out Gar Saxon and his Mandalorian followers. I'd say what Kylo and Rey did seems a bit more impressive than Sabine due to the sheer number of guards they faced at once. Thus, level 4 seems right. The Knights of Ren are, unfortunately, impossible to define in terms of power. Kylo made them to mirror the Praetorian Guards, but that doesn't mean that they were any more or less powerful. I wouldn't be surprised if they were as powerful as low-level Inquisitors, yet I have nothing definitive to confirm or deny that comparison. Thus, though I'm inclined to say this feat is more impressive than the one with the Praetorian Guard, I have no proof to back that inclination. Then there's the problem with Kylo's fight with Finn. Yes, I know, Kylo was emotionally and physically traumatized just before this fight. But Finn is a rather run-of-the-mill stormtrooper who lost to FN 2199 in the same movie. If Kylo is somewhere on Ahsoka's power level or higher, able to take on multiple Inquisitor-level baddies, then someone like Finn shouldn't be a problem, even if he's traumatized. This fight should be extremely lopsided. Yes, I know, Kylo wins, but he trades a few blows. Why isn't Finn just someone Kylo can dismissively dispatch? Thus, this kind of balances out my previous inclination to rate them higher. If you prefer, you could say that Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens is a level 3, in The Last Jedi is a level 4, and in The Rise of Skywalker is a level 5. However you look at it, Rey is right there with him as they're shown to be evenly matched. In The Force Awakens, Rey defeats Kylo, but, as said before, he was emotionally and physically traumatized. Then, in The Rise of Skywalker, Kylo defeats Rey, though Leia intervenes, allowing Rey to win. Their fights are always close, so I can't definitively say one is better than the other. Moving on to level 5. I'm going to put Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars here. Similarly with Kylo and Rey, there's something of a progression in Ahsoka's skill during the show. She goes from struggling against Cad Bane to beating Darth Maul. A huge power difference. Yet unlike Kylo and Rey, who have 3 models each in Galaxy of Heroes, Ahsoka has only 2 models, one from the Clone Wars and one from Rebels. Season 1 Ahsoka is getting a level 3 from me because, like Sabine, she can contend with the elite of the elite and some low-level villains like Cad Bane. By Season 7, Ahsoka is clearly a level 7, as she's able to barely defeat Maul, one of the most powerful killers of his day. Averaging this out, and considering Ahsoka's able to contend with the likes of General Grievous and Asajj Ventress, I'm confident in rating her a 5. Another level 5 is going to be Barriss Offee. Early on, she's clearly less powerful than Ahsoka, yet in Season 5, she defeats her rather soundly in a duel. At the time, Ahsoka mistook Barriss as Ventress, so clearly wasn't holding back as she was in their previous fight. Barriss is also able to engage Anakin Skywalker. She by no means wins, but she's able to trade blows with him for a while. I'd say for sure she's a weaker level 5, but I still think she earns this spot. I also consider Savage Opress to be a level 5. Savage is able to keep up with Ventress for a good time. He can kill minor Jedi characters with relative ease, and even killed Adi Gallia, a member of the Jedi High Council. Similarly with Malicos, I can't definitively say how powerful Gallia is, but it's still impressive to best one of the best Jedi, even if she's not combat-focused. Yet what makes Savage a level 5 is his ability to engage Anakin and Obi-Wan simultaneously for a time. No, he doesn't defeat the 2 Jedi, but he does give them a hard time and lands more than a few blows. And as these 2 are among the most powerful Jedi of their time, competing with either of them is impressive, let alone both at once. I would, in fact, rate Savage higher for being able to survive these 2, but he's sadly inconsistent. For example, Obi-Wan held him and Maul off simultaneously for a time. Count Dooku, a character who can reliably contend with both Anakin and Obi-Wan, shows himself vastly superior to Savage, and Savage's overall vulnerability to force-based attacks prohibit me from placing him any higher than a level 5. As for level 6, I'm bringing Luke Skywalker back. This is Luke as he appears in Return of the Jedi. This Luke can cut through a host of Jabba's goons and dismissively dispatch Boba Fett. Yet his best feat, of course, is at the end of the film when he bests Darth Vader. As I'm ranking Darth Vader a level 8, you'd think beating him would make Luke at least a level 8 as well, but there's a few factors stopping me from doing that. First, Darth Vader is conflicted during this fight, and second, Luke is only victorious when he taps into his rage for strength. Luke drawing from the dark side of the Force is a rare thing, so I can't use that for a basis for my rating. Yet still, even when keeping calm, Luke was able to evade a conflicted Vader and trade more than a few blows with him. Remember, this is Darth Vader, one of the most powerful beings in the Star Wars universe, and Luke was able to keep pace with him, so level 6 it is. I'm also putting General Grievous at level 6 because he's able to kill low-ranking Jedi with ease. Yet he's more than just a simple Inquisitor, as he can contend with Kit Fisto, Obi-Wan, Shaak Ti, Adi Gallia, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and more. Unlike Malicos, Kit Fisto, Obi-Wan, and Shaak Ti are all noted to be powerful combatants. Grievous can contend with large groups of Jedi and take down some of the most powerful Jedi alive. I can't put him higher than this, however, because Asajj Ventress and Obi-Wan have both beaten him, and many of his victories are achieved with help. In short, he's no Darth Vader, but he's still one of the greatest Jedi killers of his time. Another level 6 is Bastila Shan. She's difficult to gauge because of the format of the game she's featured in, but there's enough canonical information for an educated guess. She contended with both Revan and Malak. True, she lost to both of them, but she didn't make it easy. This wasn't Revan at his best, but he and Malak were still among the most powerful beings of their day. Bastila is also lauded as one of the best practitioners of battle meditation, being personally responsible for swaying the tide of battle. I know I said strategic achievements wouldn't be major factors, but when you're that crucial to a battle, I have to factor it in. On to level 7, where characters are starting to get ridiculously powerful. I think Anakin and Obi-Wan from the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith are obvious choices here. They've been shown to be able to defeat most everyone I've already listed, so not much more needs to be said. But I'll add that they can contend with the likes of Darth Maul and Count Dooku, just in case anyone doubted they deserved this rating. The two have similar feats and were fairly evenly matched when they fought each other on Mustafar, so whatever advantages one may have over the other, it's not enough to merit a whole level difference. I'll also put Darth Malak at level 7. Like Bastila, Malak can contend with Revan, but he's notably more powerful than Bastila as he's able to defeat her. Based on this, we can confidently compare him to General Grievous, another character known to easily kill Jedi and contend with some of the best. But I'm bumping him up to a level 7 because of the challenge he poses to Revan. This still isn't Revan at his most powerful, but it is a Revan who just traveled the galaxy, besting the most powerful fighters he encountered along the way. His boss fight is harder than Bastila's for a reason, so I'm placing him at level 7. We're at level 8 now. I already mentioned Vader, and I think his status is obvious, so I'll move on to Count Dooku. Although Sidious clearly states he believes Vader is more powerful than Dooku, Dooku would, by no means, be an easy victory for Vader. Perhaps Dooku is one of the worst level 8s, while Vader is one of the better, but honestly, I think they're rather comparable. Dooku clearly shows himself superior to both Anakin and Obi-Wan. Yes, some fights in the Clone Wars with Anakin are close, and he is eventually killed by him in Revenge of the Sith, but Dooku has the upper hand every other time and is killed only after fighting Obi-Wan. Dooku was able to dispatch Obi-Wan while defending himself against Anakin's onslaught. Then he was simply exhausted and couldn't keep up with Anakin's power and was killed. What's more, level 6s like Asajj Ventress and General Grievous, villains who are a true rival to Anakin and Obi-Wan, are trivial obstacles to Dooku. Dooku was even able to contend with Grandmaster Yoda for a time. Darth Sion also gets a level 8 from me. I don't think he's as good a swordsman as Vader or Dooku, probably more on par with Malak and Maul in level 7, but his status as Lord of Pain makes him nearly invincible. Mitra Surik was only able to defeat him by convincing him to die. Sion would laugh at Maul, who died after being cut in half a paltry 2 times. Being someone who can just say no to death, defeating Sion requires some creativity and out-of-the-box ability. Everyone else is guaranteed to lose. I'm also placing Mace Windu at level 8. I think Mace is usually overrated. He's powerful, I'm not saying he isn't, but he's not on the same level as Sidious. I know, Revenge of the Sith, but I have a couple problems with that duel. First, Windu had help. Yes, those Jedis weren't much help, but Sidious had to exert himself to kill them as quickly as he did. Had he only been facing Windu, he could have focused all that speed and energy on him straight away. Second, I am convinced Sidious threw this fight. I know that opinion is controversial, but I stand by it, and here's why. If you've been beaten down to the brink of death, you don't go from to in the blink of an eye. Those on the other side of the argument say Sidious wouldn't have gambled his entire plan on Anakin showing up at the exact moment and betraying the Jedi Order. I, however, would argue that's very much in character with what we've seen from him so far. In The Phantom Menace, we see Sidious gambling a lot during the war on Naboo. Perhaps most significantly, that Qui-Gon would die, but Obi-Wan would live. Had both died, the Council would have rejected Anakin from their order. Getting him secretly trained would have been all the more difficult, and then Sidious wouldn't have had his inside man to betray the order. Had Qui-Gon survived, I'm sure he would have been a better influence over Anakin than Obi-Wan was, and wouldn't have allowed Palpatine to manipulate him like Obi-Wan did. Now I'm sure Sidious told Maul to focus on killing Qui-Gon, but there's still significant risk here which could have stopped his entire plan before it started. In Revenge of the Sith, Sidious throws away Count Dooku, his most powerful and influential servant, predicting he'll soon be able to replace him with Anakin. In Return of the Jedi, Sidious leaks authentic information to the rebels, putting his life and his entire empire at risk. He could have leaked false information, but he was so confident in his predictive power and military might that he wasn't worried. Then, he was so sure of Darth Vader that when Luke tried to kill him, he didn't so much as raise a finger to defend himself. And Sidious was absolutely sure that there was no chance Darth Vader would turn back to the light, that he sensed nothing as Vader betrayed him. Sidious has always been absolutely confident in himself and his predictive abilities. Maybe he's overconfident in his lightsaber skills. Maybe he's overconfident in his prophetic ability. Either way, he's overconfident. Thus, using overconfidence as an argument to prove one way or the other simply isn't enough. As such, I remain unconvinced and still believe Sidious purposefully threw the fight. So, level 8 for Mace Windu. Level 9 will start off with Mother Talzin. Talzin is another hard one to calculate, as she's rather situational. Given enough time to prepare her sorcery, I feel confident she could contend with Sidious. She nearly killed Count Dooku without even being on the same planet. Yet, in a pinch, she's more manageable. She's still OP. She went toe-to-toe with Mace Windu after all, but that's clearly a step down from nearly killing someone without touching him. I can't say she's on Sidious's level, as she herself says as much, and when she possessed the body of Count Dooku, she was easily defeated by him. In her own body, she was able to hold off Sidious for a while, seeming to match him strength to strength. Though she was defeated, this was because Dooku helped Sidious. There's no canonical answer that I know of to say who would win between Talzin and Sidious, but since she was unable to kill Dooku or Windu, I'm inclined to side with Sidious. Her power also fluctuates due to various rituals. When she went even with Sidious, she was fully rejuvenated and on Dathomir. Thus, everything was stacked in her favor. Sidious, being less reliant on rituals and spells, is more consistent in his power than Talzin is with hers. Her most powerful abilities require substantial preparation, while Sidious can act at a moment's notice. I therefore can't justify rating Talzin the same as Sidious. In fact, I may be able to be convinced that I've overrated her and that she's only a level 8. After all, she was among her worshippers and in the middle of a cult ceremony when she fought Mace Windu. It's possible she had extra power for that fight that she would not normally have. Still, for the moment, I'm keeping her at level 9. Grandmaster Yoda also gets a level 9 from me. Not only does he handily defeat Dooku, but he's also able to go even with Darth Sidious for a very long duel. Yoda and Talzin are the only canonical characters I know of who can match Sidious with the Force, and Yoda and Mace Windu are the only canonical characters I know of who can match him with the lightsaber. I can't, however, put Yoda on the same level as Sidious because he not only lost to him, but lost to him in such a way as to lose all hope of ever defeating Sidious himself. I know it's not easy to assassinate the Supreme Chancellor, but you saw how useless his guards were against Yoda. Yoda certainly could have doubled back for a rematch had he wanted to. He could have gotten another lightsaber and brought Obi-Wan to help him, but instead he fled into exile. He never dared challenge Sidious again, surrendering the entire galaxy to the Sith. If, then, Yoda was so utterly vanquished by Sidious, I can't say they're on the same level. The final level 9 I'll mention is Revan. This is Revan after being freed from stasis. Even before this, his accomplishments gave him a godlike status in the minds of many of the galaxy. He defeated Mandalore the Ultimate, Darth Malak, Lord Vitiate, and countless others who were accounted among the best in the galaxy. After this, he was able to contend with Grandmaster Shan, Theron, and some of the most powerful heroes in the galaxy. Revan's lists of feat is so long and impressive that I'm only worried that I've underrated him. He's consistently beaten teams of the best of the best. The only person he encountered who could be considered his equal is Lord Vitiate. Although Revan can beat Vitiate, the Sith Lord can match him and at times overpower him. It is for this reason, and this reason alone, that I'm giving Revan a level 9 instead of a level 10. I'm agreeing with Evan Nova 95 here in that Vitiate isn't quite on Sidious's level. Similarly to Mother Talzin, Vitiate's power is based primarily in sorcery. He gets most of his power externally, from rituals and objects. Sidious's power is primarily internal, allowing for greater consistency. Vitiate is, therefore, more vulnerable, as if his external supply of power is disrupted, he becomes less powerful. If he didn't have so many extra bodies, he wouldn't be as significant of a threat. I know it's not the strongest argument, but since Vitiate seems less powerful than Sidious, and Revan seems comparable to Vitiate, I'm putting Revan lower than Sidious. Thus, for me, Revan gets to level 9, but I'm willing to be persuaded that he's a level 10. Speaking of level 10, we're here at last. It should be no surprise that I'm putting Darth Sidious here. I have certainly talked enough about him. Again, he's beaten most everyone already listed. He only needed help against Mace Windu and Mother Talzin, and both of those were situational, so not the most representative fights. He's clearly more powerful than Yoda, and his accomplishments, like Revan's, are too long and impressive to list in this brief overview. I'm going to bring strategy into play again, because Sidious's abilities here stand far above everyone else's. He manipulated the entire galaxy and did it in plain sight, moving the most powerful beings in the galaxy like chess pieces to get exactly what he wanted. I honestly don't think there's any reason for me to justify my placement of Darth Sidious. He's the top of the pack, always has been. We'll see if Keanu Reeves dethrones him. I know Anakin, as the Chosen One, had the potential to become more powerful than Sidious, but he failed to achieve his full potential, and Sidious actively held him back. I have only one other level 10 to mention, Darth Nihilus. Here's another character who shouldn't need an explanation, but here's one anyway. Nihilus can force drain anyone and everyone. When the Jedi held a secret gathering on Qatar, he drained them all, along with the whole planet. Even if someone is adept at resisting force drain, they've never encountered the level of Nihilus's power. The best resistance I know of is displayed by Anakin, who resists the Dark Reaper. As powerful as that device was, I can't see it competing with Darth Nihilus, as it is never shown to drain an entire planet. What's more, Ulic Qel-Droma taught the Jedi during the Great Sith War how to resist the Dark Reaper. Thus, resistance to this weapon was well known about 45 years before Nihilus's attack on Qatar. Jedi like Vondar Tok'er were alive during the Great Sith War, so it stands to reason that a Jedi of his prominence would have been taught how to resist the Dark Reaper. It wouldn't at all be surprising if other Jedi at the Qatar Conclave had the same knowledge. Yet it didn't matter, as Nihilus drained them all. Thus, at best, those who could resist the Dark Reaper only have a partial defense against Nihilus, while at worst, they are just as vulnerable as everyone else. Only Mitra Surik was able to properly resist Nihilus's drain, and that was only because she was also a wound in the Force. Thus, whether Ezra Bridger or Darth Sidious, all are the same to Darth Nihilus. A tasty snack. In fact, Nihilus only needs to show up to win the battle. His very gaze, even his voice, are said to cause incredible pain. Maybe you'll say I'm exaggerating Nihilus's abilities. Fair enough. Let's look at what happens if someone survives his initial drain. As it happens, Nihilus is an accomplished duelist, able to effectively fight Vizaz Mar, Canderous Ordo, and Mitra Surik simultaneously. Sure, he lost, but he was starving at the time and unable to feed. And remember, Mitra Surik was able to beat both Darth Sion and Darth Traya in one-on-one fights. She, similarly to Revan, traveled the galaxy defeating the best of the best. Canderous and Vizaz are both decent fighters as well, though not on the same level as Mitra. It is, therefore, safe to say Nihilus is a better swordsman than Mitra, as she needed help to kill him. Thus, even should you survive Nihilus's initial drain, you'll need to be one of the best duelists in galactic history to compete with him. And who's to say he won't drain you again during the fight? If you can partially resist, then he'll consume you piece by piece, all the while holding you off with some of the best blade work you've ever seen. I'm not going to say his lightsaber skills are on par with Sidious or Yoda, but I think it's safe to compare him to the likes of Anakin or even Count Dooku. Other than just avoiding him and hoping he starves, there's no sure way to defeat the Lord of Hunger. So, level 10 it is for me. And there you have it, my quick overview of some of the characters from Galaxy of Heroes. These are my opinions, and I realize I didn't go into many details, but this is just to give a basic idea of who is generally better than who. If nothing else, let this inspire more versus videos. Let's see that Kanan Jarrus versus Cal Kestis. I rated Darth Malak higher than General Grievous, but do you think he'd win? What about Revan versus Mother Talzin? Did I put Revan too low? Did I put Talzin too high? Let's hear your thoughts, and let's see those versus videos. But that's all from me for now. Thanks for watching.